Institute of Archaeology, London, 1908. The disappearance of an esteemed Egyptologist prompts a police investigation into the unknown. Explore cryptic locations, examine fantastic gadgets, and uncover an otherworldly discovery which blurs the line between reality and illusion.
This is the 5th game in the Room series and the first to make use of virtual reality. As an escape room game, VR is perfectly suited to this genre. Has Fireproof Games made the most of it? Let's find out. I am reviewing the tethered PC version of the Room VR. I have not yet tried the standalone version, so expect the lighting to be a little less detailed on the Quest. However, the PC version is excellent. The reflections of light give the game that slightly eerie feel, especially when a solved puzzle causes something unusual to happen. You'll be seeing the reflections of ethereal light reflecting from walls, surfaces. You'll be looking around for what's causing it, and usually see something that causes you to think, ooh, alright then. Fireproof Games opted to make the Room VR a series of puzzle rooms with static locations, meaning that you can't just wander around yourself, you teleport to each puzzle in the room. Now personally, I like this approach as it is the same as the previous games on mobile phones and ensures that you're not wandering around aimlessly looking for a solution to a puzzle that just isn't there. Now graphically the game looks absolutely superb. The 1900s styling is nicely presented and the various puzzle elements are clear and understandable. Of special note is the shimmering mother of pearl effect on surfaces that you can use your eyepiece to see into. It's subtle enough to not be immediately obvious, but unmistakable when you do see it. Performance really isn't a concern here. Even the recommended requirements call for just a GTX 1060, and it has been shown to work with even a 1050. If you have something less powerful, well, you probably don't have VR. Overall, I love the room style and it's translated perfectly to the virtual world. The sound is as it was in the previous games, mainly audio clues and functional beeps and clicks to let you know something has happened, like a lock opening or a switch being pulled. The room has always had its own unique audio style with a slightly underworldly feel as you're pulled ever deeper into the null reality. The theme song is suitably haunting, and along with the rest of the sounds in the game, it lends itself perfectly to a VR setting. The only thing I believe is missing are some voiceovers. I would have liked to have heard the various letters left to you by the craftsman read out aloud. I think it would have added something extra. But this is a personal opinion and certainly does not detract from the rest of the audio, which is perfect. The Room VR has you in the shoes of an early 1900s detective looking into the disappearance of an esteemed Egyptian archaeologist and encountering the strange and unnerving dimension of the null element. After a brief visit to your office where a strange box has been left for you to examine, you're suddenly whisked away to the last known location of the archaeologist, the British Institute of Archaeology. Now, not knowing how you got here, you find a message from the strange character known as the Craftsman, and your investigation into the unknown begins. The room games are essentially escape rooms, although you're not specifically attempting to escape, but to find the hidden location of an artifact, which will then move you to the next location. To do this, you solve a number of puzzles, some fairly obvious and some far more involved. Many puzzles rely on solving a different puzzle which may reveal an item needed or a code clue. Often the link between puzzles is not immediately obvious, however it is usually logical and can generally be deduced eventually. If you're familiar with the Room's previous games, you'll be right at home here, as a lot of the puzzles are quite similar in nature, and while not exactly the same, it will give you an idea of things to try and look out for. Now, this can be a slight issue for Room veterans, as you may find some of the puzzles a little bit too easy and obvious. Now, my playthrough was, on the whole, not as easy as I expected. The museum level, which is the first one, seems to be fairly straightforward, whereas the church level, which is the one after that, was far more unexpected and definitely caused more neurons to fire in my brain in order to figure things out. If in doubt, however, there is a structured hint system that gives you just enough of a push to find the solution if you are otherwise stumped. I personally didn't require these hints, but I can certainly understand it on some of these puzzles where you may think to yourself, I'm not sure what to do, and that's where these hints come in very handy. They don't tell you how to solve the puzzle, they simply give you a little pointer to remind you, have you checked this or have you done that? Nothing was particularly frustrating, and due to the locations being static, you won't find yourself wandering around a section that has no relevance to the level. Now, this is an excellent addition to the game. I've read on forums that manual locomotion would have been a preferred choice, however it's just not a good idea in a game like this, otherwise you'll spend far too long just looking in places with no clues or puzzles. The mechanics of the game just make sense. Your hand will change slightly on screen when an action can take place, and opening boxes, turning keys and rotating tumblers works exactly as you would hope. There is pretty much no learning curve here for manipulation of objects. It would be especially nice to have seen the Oculus Quest's hand tracking used here. Perhaps it isn't quite good enough to implement just yet, but if Fireproof Games consider making a VR sequel, please, then it would be a welcome addition. I like the locations in the game. There are multiple rooms per level and they each increase in complexity as you go through the game. There are 5 levels in total, so longevity does depend on just how good you are at solving them. I would estimate the average player will spend maybe an hour or 2 on the earlier levels and perhaps 90 minutes or so on each of the final 2, so you're looking at about 6 to 7 hours of play in total. And that brings me to my complaint. It is just too expensive at the moment. At launch, the asking price for this game is £24.99. And now, while the game is very good, I just think this is overpriced by about £10. There is very little replayability. I mean, once you've solved the game, going back would be quite pointless, as you will see nothing new and you know how to solve the puzzles. Okay, maybe a speedrun or 2, but you know. And while value is subjective, I just feel for 25 quid I want more levels and more longevity. However, there is no denying that, assuming you like this sort of game, you will find very little to dislike in the Room VR. It's challenging, pretty, very easy to play, and has that The Room feel that you just don't find in other escape room games. VR is possibly the only good thing about 2020 so far, so I hope quality virtual reality games continue to be released, just so to keep this self-isolation more fun.